Wait, Hi everyone, it's Krisha from Thermal Book Nerd. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, this is where we talk about books, reading, and the nerd life in the Philippines, so thank you so much for hanging out with us. Today we'll be tackling one of the most pressing issues of our time, how to get over reading slumps. So please stick around. And bonus, we're gonna do that while I crochet some hats for my nephews and nieces and inaanaks. The holidays are fast approaching and wala pa po akong pangregalo, so we'll make some for them. So wala nang patumpik-tumpik pa, let's just get right into it. First off, let's define a reading slump. A reading slump happens when you find yourself unable to read any book. And it's very frustrating, especially if reading is one of your favorite things to do. We've all been there, I've been there, so here's how I get over a reading slump. Number one, you have to first recognize that you're not a loser for having a reading slump. Reading slumps are a natural part of life, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. Kung ma-reading slump gani ka, it just happens to the best of us and we just have to accept it. So, the first way to cure a problem is to first know what caused it in the first place. The same goes for reading slumps as well. So, what you want to do is you want to look back and think kung sa maging makakos ani nga mga reading slump. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, for me, what caused my reading slumps are the following. Reading too many bad books in a row. Reading hype books that did not meet expectations. Another one is feeling pressure to either read everything on my TBR, which is basically the reason why I don't have a TBR actually. The pressure to finish challenges and deadlines as well. Another reason why I don't participate in challenges, because it's just additional pressure to me and life already has so many pressures and deadlines. I don't want to add reading to that list. Another one is when I'm too busy with work and I can't focus. You know, when you're so far up capitalism's ass, you will feel this guilt when you relax or when you try to enjoy yourself. So that's one of the causes for me sa akong reading slump. Now, I feel guilty whenever I take time for myself, which sucks, right? So that's one of my reasons for my reading slumps. Another is analysis paralysis. You've got too many choices. You've already experienced that, right? Like for example, nagtanaw ka og YouTube or Netflix and you wanna watch a movie, pero you end up just scrolling through the selection kaya you can't think of anything else to watch. I think the same is true for reading slumps as well. I feel like as readers, we now have access to so much reading material. You know what I'm saying? Like physical books, there's ebooks, there's audiobooks, a lot. There's so much options out there. And I feel like if you fall victim, I guess, to analysis paralysis, that's where the reading slump happens. And lastly, changing tastes. That's one of the reasons sad nga nung magka-reading slump ka. That happened to me when I first noticed nga I didn't like reading YA books anymore. Nga kanang marag, these don't cut it for me. But I've been reading YA for such a long time that I didn't really know what to read afterwards. So for a while there, I was stumped nga kanang marag, okay, so what do I do now? Thus, the reading slump ensued. So, now that you've identified the cause of your reading slump, it's time to do something about it. You can now take actionable steps on how to solve the problem. Makaingon jud ko nga reading slump is like stepping on quicksand. The more you struggle, the more you sink into it, and that's not helpful for anyone. So my first tip to get out of a reading slump is don't force it. You have to take time away from your books and reading. You can take it slow, do other things. Books ultimately help you unlock stories and experience life, but they're not the only channels to do that. You can take time away from reading. Maybe you can write instead. Maybe you can go take a walk. Maybe you can spend time with friends, with family. Maybe you can, pay attention to other hobbies like crocheting. You're allowed to take a rest. You also have to realize that slumps actually happen in a cycle. They may happen once in a while, but they're never permanent. Probably your brain telling you to do something else with your time. Now, if you're rested na, here are some things that you can do. First, you can take it slow, ease into it. Don't force yourself to read a certain number of books right then and there. Just take it slow and find what feels good for you. Just take it slow and take the pressure off yourself. Make reading fun again. Another would be to just read whatever you like. I feel like this helps a lot when you've previously been put in such a pressure to read a certain number of books. So I'm very huge mood reader. So if you've been hanging out with me here on the channel, you might have noticed that the books that I recommend to you guys are very varied. So there's romance, there's fantasy, there's mystery, and then there's nonfiction, and then there's translated works. It's everything. So I feel like being a mood reader also benefits me. It's given me freedom to just read whatever the heck I felt like reading. So start by reading whatever you like. Find what suits you. Read whatever your mood dictates. This next method of getting out of a reading slump is one of my favorites. I call this the backtrack method. I first read this one in Austin Kleon's Steal Like an Artist. So basically, the concept is you take your favorite artists, right? Or basically, in this case, you take your favorite authors. You make a list of your favorite authors. And then, you try to discover who the favorite authors of your favorite author are. So, dagan siya benefits. Doing this helps you realize na, oh, so this author's work influenced your work. And it's interesting because it's kind of like a peek behind the veil sa creative process sa imong favorite author. For example, one of my favorite authors is Neil Gaiman. So, si Neil Gaiman, ang iyahang mga favorite nga mga authors, kay one of them is Diana Wynne Jones, another one is Ursula Le Guin. Tito Neil also worked with Terry Pratchett. Now, if you take those individual authors and research about their works as well, you'll end up with a lot of books already. So for example, in this case, si Diana Wynne Jones, she's the author of Howl's Moving Castle, The Crestomancy Chronicles, and a lot of other good fantasy novels nga right up in my alley. In the case of Ursula Le Guin, Tita Ursula, she wrote The Ones Who Walked Away from Amilas. She also wrote The Earthsea Chronicles, Lavinia, and a bunch of other cool sci-fi work. So there's that. Terry Pratchett wrote Good Omens with Neil Gaiman. Tito Terry, he also has a huge body of work, very entertaining, nasa fantasy. Using this process, we now have how many books na ato ang nakuan, na-uncover, how many series na ato ang na-discover using this method. So, if you want to get out of a reading slump, try the backtrack method. I don't have any other fancy name for it, pero that's how you do it. And I hope that it gives you good results. Mga sata. Another way to get out of a reading slump is to try to consume books in a different format. This was very useful for me when I switched back to physical books. Because there was a time nga, puro rap, e-books ang ako ang mga gibasa. So, I was on my devices a lot of the time, which wasn't very beneficial for me because I work in, digital marketing, and I'm on my screen like for 8 hours a day at a minimum. And so, kung mag-read pagyug ko og books in a digital format, it reminded me too much of work, and it really took the joy out of the whole experience. So, following that reading slump, I went back to reading physical books. And you know what? Nice siya. Kay kanang nibalik yun ako reading habit ato. My reading habit came back, and I don't know, the feel of reading a physical book there's just nothing like it, right? I mean, I love ebooks for their convenience and all that, pero nothing beats a physical copy, Jud. So that's it for me. On the other hand, if reading physical books remind you too much of your previous reading slump, you might want to try ebooks instead. Or if bet nimo, you can even try audiobooks. I tried that as well to get out of a slump. Unfortunately, it didn't help me kay I'm a visual learner. I di nako bet ang audiobooks. But if you want to try a different way or platform or medium to consume books, maybe you can try that one. Aside from trying a different medium, maybe you can try different formats of stories as well. Maybe you can try graphic novels. Maybe you can try short story collections. And here's another one that I like, picture books. Picture books for kids. It's a very nice way to rekindle your love for reading, I feel. Kay, books for kids, they're so whimsical, they're so cute, and they're so full of illustrations. They are designed to stimulate your mind, Jude. So, if you're feeling a bit meh sa imong reading life, try an illustrated book for kids. It's really cute, and I find it very effective. Promise. This is how the hat will look like when it's finished. The next method to get out of your reading slump would be to reread your favorites. I am guilty of this one. It has helped me many a time. I feel like reading old favorites just brings you back to the magic of reading. You know, there are even some books where I feel nga ganahan ako sila ma-read for the first time again. For me, those books are my romances. I really love mga Susan Elizabeth Phillips nga mga romance. Books that make me cry as well. I don't know, I just want to live through others' pain. Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson. Maybe something from Coho. Historical romance books nga grabe kay gravel. Nga mga dramatic kayo. I love that shit. So, yeah. What's that? And lastly, to get out of a reading slump, maybe you want to try reading a book from a genre that you've never tried before. This was particularly useful for me katong time nga I was getting out of my YA phase. So, diba, I told you nga kanang I didn't really know what to read afterwards. So, I tried going for a genre that I've never tried before. And for me, that was Japanese books and translated works. So, karon puro kana na lang ang akong mga gipang read. I think we have entered my translated works phase. And actually, I have no regrets because I found a lot of good, insightful books during this kanang phase or moment in time. So, if and when ang imuhang reading slump is caused by, you know, not knowing what to read anymore, maybe you can try reading a genre that you've never really tried before. This can help you move out of your reading slump like I did. So that's it, you guys. Those are my tips on how to get out of a reading slump. I know reading slumps can be very frustrating, but rest assured that they're not permanent. These are temporary. You can get out of it, and don't beat yourself up too much when you experience it. It's definitely normal. It doesn't make you a bad or fake reader. We just have to roll with the punches. So if you found this video useful, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and maybe sharing this one to your friends because you'll never know, maybe this can help them get out of their reading slumps as well. How about you? How do you get over your reading slumps? Let me know in the comments below, and maybe it can help another nerd out. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This has been Krisha from Third World Book Nerd, and I'll see you next time when I finish this crochet. Bye!